Hello guys, remember how we started? We talked about the data analytics cycle. We talked about the types of data analytics when we talked about the descriptive, the prescriptive, the predictive and all those. And then we also talked about recently we talked about the data roles. So let us begin to connect the dots, how these different data roles operate in these different spectrums, which is for data analytics, for a data analyst, for a data scientist, for a data engineer. So in the data analysis process or cycle, who does what in the actual data analysis cycle? We'll see. I know we fused in a bit of it, but this time around we're gonna talk about the process in full. First of all, let me remind you again that there is a beginning of the process, but unfortunately there is no end. It loops through, it continues, it never ends. That's one thing you need to know about data analysis process, especially in a data project team. In the enterprise form, it never ends because you continue to optimize and look at it again and start the process again. It never ends. So that's the first thing. Now, to remind us again of what the cycles are like, the very first thing to look at in the data project is the business requirements, to discuss what I can call the KPIs. What are those things that you need to look out in a business? What are the metrics that you are hoping to get to help in the decision making? So that's the first thing. What are the requirements? Does it need, what type of data is that? What type of data form is it? Is it something that needs continuous maintenance? Where does it need to be deployed? Is it a one-off analytics or something that needs to be optimized? So these are like the first to discuss the data requirements and how it fuses into the business goal. Now, depending on the process, so we then begin to look at the data ingestion process, or just ingestion is just a simple way to put it, the process of just making the data available in the format that will be used by the analyst. That's just simply what is data ingestion. So there are different forms. Remember when I was discussing about these rules, I was also saying depending on the platform or the environment that the analyst uses. Some use Tableau, some use Power BI, some use also SQL snapshots or something like an environment where you only just query and just get the reports, maybe export it to Excel or something like that. So depending on what that goal, what the aim is all about, that is why I said that the first thing is what the requirement process, to look at the scope of things, what you have to track and everything. So when you have all defined all of those, so you move to the data ingestion process. And now there are two types of ingestion that are mostly used. By the way, those in this process for the ingestion are usually the data engineers. Remember what I said, these are the people that, when I say cut the onions, and so they prepare these things and then set the table up. So that's what they do. So in this cycle of data analytics project, this is where they get involved. The data engineers, they set up the ingestion and then channel it to where it will now be used for processing. Basically, one thing there are two types of ingestion process. Now, it depends on the roles that are involved, right? There are some data engineers that take up the role of transformation. So they don't just load, they load and transform. Not load and transform, depending, but they transform it. So there are two types of ingestion, which is one, EL. ETL is extract, transform and load, and ELT, which is extract, load and transform. So if you are working with a data engineer and it is under his responsibility to transform the data depending on where it is being taken from, then the person can use what we call extract, transform. Extract is to get the data set from wherever it is, transforms it, right, transforms it and then load it into the, let's use Power BI for instance in our talk today, so it will be easy for you to get the whole thing. So loads it into the Power BI environment. So what the data analyst or Power BI expert does is just to begin to pop out charts, right? So this is a case where the transformation is in the hand of what? The data engineer. There are also cases where it is what? ELT, which is to extract, load, and what? Transform. So this is most cases where the data analyst perhaps is one that will transform, depending. Now the difference is the transformation for the ETL transformation is at the source. That's what I would say. It is at the source. So it has how will I put it? It is more efficient, because if you use ELT, that you transform that data doesn't mean that it has been transformed from the source. It is only being transformed in the environment where the analyst is using it. But for ETL means it's been transformed right from the source before it is then loaded. So you move to the data exploration process. Now this is where, from the word exploration, this is where you begin to understand what you have and how it promises to help you track what you want to track, which you have discussed at the beginning, right? So that's why we call it exploration, data exploration. You begin to explore your data, see what you have versus what you don't have. Let's take for instance, if you just have age, and perhaps you need to understand the maybe like age versus sales, and you need to understand not just the age but the age band versus the sales, but you don't have the age band, right? So it is in the data exploration that you begin to create a column for what? Age band, and begin to build out features or columns from what you have. So that is just what data exploration is all about, looking at what you have versus what you don't have, and how it looks to help the business or help your project or whatever it is that you are doing. Most of the cases, the people that are in this process are the data analysts, and or not sometimes data analysts and data scientists, because as a data scientist, remember what I said, that for you to even be a data scientist, you must first of all be a data analyst. So both are always in this process, depending on where they are heading, where the project is heading. So both can all be in this process, which is to explore your data. For a data scientist, who can call it feature engineering, you begin to engineer your feature towards what you have versus what you don't have. And then for data analysts, you begin to look at, okay, what are the metrics, your KPIs. You begin to see what and what that will help you in your KPI building. So this process is for the both roles, and this is, like I've said, it also comes with some, although the main data cleaning always happen in the transformation stage, which is either is in the ETL format or in the ELT format. So the data cleaning, all those unwanted characters, all those things are usually done. So when I say transformation, that's also part of what they do there. But in the exploration is not that I'm trying to separate them, because most times I see people mixing up EDL and data cleaning. Data cleaning is just a transformation stage. EDL is now you looking at outside being dirty, now looking at your data, what you have versus what you don't have, and how do you bring out what you don't have from what you have. You see, as simple as that. That is what this stage is all about. So it's done by what? Two people, data scientist and data analyst. Now the next stage is analyze your data analysis stage. So this is just where you then begin to analyze your data, pop out the chart, visualize your data in many forms that you want it. Some might require just popping out the chart, which is data visualization, while some might just be to query the data and just get it in a table, export it to Excel. So all of these can all be part of the data analysis. So not all the data analysis stage is all about visualization. Majorly, that's usually what it is like, because you're not beginning to analyze it. But there are some analysis that is just like you get those simple queries. Maybe you just want to, after you've explored your data, right, like we said, all you wanted to see is the sales by different age band. So because you have explored that data, you just, in your analysis, what you just need to do is just to bring out a short table that gives the sales versus the age band, if that's just what your result is all about. Remember what I said about the requirement. So everything boils down to where are you heading, which we have discussed in the beginning. If your endpoint is to visualize your data in a dashboard, then you begin to do that in the analysis stage. If it is just build a report from a short Excel table, then this is the stage you just do that and that's it. So but this stage is just where you analyze your data, as simple as that, according to your already discussed KPI from the beginning, right? After that, you move to the next stage, which is usually to deploy your analytics solution that you have built. Now, in the data analysis, is usually the data analyst that take this part. Now, in the deployment stage, now because, mind you, data analysis is divided into, we've discussed that before, descriptive, right? Descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive, if you remember. Now, to mix all of these roles up into the type of analysis, because it is in type of analysis that it is your end goal that begins to look at the type of analysis and the roles that will be involved in this very stage. So if this data analysis stage is the stage of just descriptive analysis, then it involves just a data analyst whose job is just to, the word descriptive is what? Is to build a data story of what happened, just simply to tell us what happened. But if it is a diagnostic analysis, now it can involve two roles, which is diagnosis is why it happened. So it can be either the data analyst or the data scientist in this type of analysis can get involved in this stage. Diagnostic, why it happened. But if it is a predictive type of analysis, predictive is you are forecasting, you are trying to get the result of something that is likely to happen. That's just the word, predictive. This is the seat for data scientist. The data scientist sits pretty on this stage. This is the stage where it does what we call data modeling, begins to train your model and all that, because it is predictive. Now, if it is prescriptive, now, because I know a lot of you will be wondering, where does business analyst comes in? Now, if it is a prescriptive, now this is the business analyst will come in here in the analysis, which is what? To connect the KPIs and then begin to begin to build the KPIs as it concerns the business. So that's why I said that the requirements, the end goal of that project is what defines whose role come into this data analysis stage. But this data analysis stage is wide open depending on the type of project, which we have said descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. Remember, in the prescriptives as well, even a data scientist, data analyst, business analyst can all fall into this stage. That's why I've said that before, that there is thin line between some of these roles depending on what your organizational definition of the role. Mind you, please, there is no standard. We can't categorize it wholly. So everything is still, but all we can say is just majorly what those in this role majorly do. That's what we can say, because as a data analyst, I've seen some data analysts that from the very beginning they do everything to the finish. So depending on the scope, the enterprise, the organization, the project, everything depends. So after your analysis, what then happens? You deploy your solution. Remember this, you're trying to solve a solution here. So if the solution is to build a dashboard that will be used by stakeholders, or maybe you're trying to build a dashboard for a team that will be using it. So after your analysis and everything you've done, which we can also call in the deployment stage, your development stage, there's also a deployment hierarchy or cycle, which is deployment, which is development, test, and deployment. Let me not mix it up. So after you just your analysis, you just deploy your product to where it will be used by others, or where it will be presented in the format it will be presented. It could be in a dashboard setting, which you deploy to Power BI service, depend in your workspace, or if it is just an Excel sheet, that is a small table in an Excel sheet, you deploy it, you can deploy it into the Excel sheet. If it is in a web or something, so there are a lot of, so maybe like for a data scientist, maybe after modeling the whole thing, your model is now predicting the way you want it and is efficient, you've tested it, everything, you deploy. So everything always goes down according to the type of project, the requirements, the end goal. That's all of this is what determines where it is heading at this stage. So if it is just for the goal, you just deploy it to where the business owner or the stakeholders or the people will be using it. If it is, for instance, in the data science process, so this is where you deploy your model. That's what you deploy your model. There are different deployment stages for Heroku, for some deploying, maybe using Streamlit, deploying into a local web, some deploying into internet web and all that. So depending on where all of this is heading, deployment is just simply where the analytics solution will be used or where it will be used. So there are also some that also require some requirements. When I mentioned deploying Power BI service, is not free. So if of course for a work setting, that means that you have to need a license for you to get a workspace before you deploy stuff like that. So all of these are just for you to just have an idea of the whole settings of the life cycle of a data analytics solution. That's the main thing. So when you deploy, you seek feedback. You step back and see how they use it, right? Then seek feedback. What is working well, what is not working well. You're taking those feedback. These are just short sub stages now. You're taking the feedback. See, some people are saying this, some people are not saying this. It looks like this. It works like this in a laptop layout. It doesn't work like this in a phone layout. So you're taking the feedbacks from the user's perspective and come back again and optimize. That's why I say the process never ends. As you optimize, because it is something that will need maintenance, you continue to optimize. After taking the whole feedback, you continue again. So let's take, for instance, because one will say, how do I know when to continue? So let's take, for instance, there is a KPI that is needed to be built into what is already been deployed. So what that means, you have to take from the beginning again of the transformation stage and go and build that KPI and start all over again, explore the data set, analyze it now, deploy it again, and continue to refine it, because as time goes on, there will continue to be a problem. That is why your phones have versions. Today, that it is built today doesn't mean it will continue to be upgraded and be refined. That is the process. It continues to go on. That is all about data cycle. Please stay tuned for more.